it's TCK. Welcome back to the Rambles channel. This week I am so excited. I'm doing a TCK tag. Thank you so much, Nana Kennedy-Kwofie, for starting this, and I'm going to do justice. Just a public service announcement before I start on the tag info. I'm switching around the videos, so I'm going to be posting on Tuesdays instead of Thursdays, and I think this is the way that I'm going to want it to be from now on and the foreseeable future. Okay, so the first question on the tag is, where are you from? So I typically answer this question in two ways. I either say it's complicated, I've moved around a lot, or I say my parents are in Texas. People normally don't actually register that I haven't answered their question, and because most people really just ask this question for small talk, they don't really care that you didn't really answer it. When I was younger, I used to say that I was from the last place I lived, and this got complicated because it just started like obligatory conversations that they didn't want to be in, so that's where I'm from. A non-answer for that. The second question is, how many languages do you speak? I fluently speak one language, I speak English, but I have learned French and Spanish, and I'm currently learning Korean. But I've also learned weird things in a lot of other languages. I can sing happy birthday in probably 8 or 9 different languages. And I can say like, where's the bathroom, hello, thank you, goodbye in 15 other languages. It's just kind of something I learned before I go anywhere. Those are really necessary. But yeah, so fluently one is the short answer. The next question is, how many passports do you have and what nationalities are they? So I only have in my possession one passport, and it's an American passport. The next question is, how many countries have you lived in? I have lived in only 3 countries. I've lived in the United States, in Malaysia, and in Egypt. But I've lived in the United States in very different areas, and I've also lived in Egypt different times. I think I'm going to change that question a little bit to what's your TCK journey? Because I know a lot of TCKs move around like within a country in different regions, or they bounce back between different countries, and I think that's kind of more telling as to, you know, the places you've been and what your TCK story is. So my question is, what is your TCK story? And to answer my own question, my TCK story is, I started out in Texas. I was there for 3 years, and then we moved to Louisiana for another 3 years. And then we moved overseas for the first time to Malaysia, and we were there for 4 years, and that's really where my memories really kicked in and started. I remember my childhood from then. But after 4 years in Malaysia, we moved to Egypt for the first time, and we were there for 3 years. And then we moved back to Texas, and 3.5 years later we made sort of a spur-of-the-moment decision to move back to Egypt, but we were only there for 3 weeks because it was 2011 and the Arab Spring started, so the Egyptian Revolution bubbled up a couple blocks away from where we were living, and we were evacuated back to Texas. So we were there for several months after the evacuation, and then we moved back to Egypt for a whole year where I finished high school, and then I came to Colorado for university. The next question is kind of complicated. It's, how are you treated when you return to the country that you're from or the country that you lived in? I can sort of answer both of these questions. I don't really get treated very differently. It's more just that I notice differences in myself than with people who have lived here, and that's really common for TCKs when they repatriate. But the other part of the question, how are you treated when you return to the country that you lived in? I returned to Egypt several times, and it was very interesting because I returned over very different periods in my life. I was there when I was a child, and I was there when I was more of a grown woman, and very different environments and very different memories have spurred from that. What are some of the adaptations that you've had to make? I know that I have become more adaptable because of all of my moving around. One thing One thing that I do 100% of the time is if someone has an accent, in about 10 minutes of conversation with them, my voice will start to change to match their accent. So right now I live in Colorado, so I have a Colorado accent or a Denver accent. But yeah, I was recently in New York and I started picking up on a Buffalo accent. And it gets a little weird because you don't know if they're gonna be insulted that you're like picking up on their accent, because I'm completely not doing it on purpose, but occasionally people think you're making fun of them and it's just, oh, it's weird. But anyways, so yeah, that is one thing that I can't stop myself from doing. The next question is, do you have any interesting culture shock stories? Yes, my culture shock story happened when I was grocery shopping for the first time in the United States. If you don't know what a US grocery store looks like, it's basically a giant warehouse with 6-foot shelves in aisles filled with food, and there's like 2 or 3 aisles for freezer items, there's a couple of refrigerated sections, and then a produce area that's about the size of a house. So it's a bit overwhelming. But this particular grocery store chain that we were at was called Here Everything's Better, which just became more ironic with this story. So we were almost all the way through the grocery store, and my mom turned to me and she said, "Hey, can you go back to the condiment aisle? I forgot ranch dressing." So I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So I went back to the condiment aisle and found the ranch dressing section, and immediately became very overwhelmed. There was probably 300 different options for ranch dressing, and I didn't know what to do. So I sat down in the aisle and I started crying and laughing a little bit because this was completely ridiculous. But this old lady came up to me and in her very sweet Texas accent, she asked me if I was okay, did I need anything? And I said, yeah, I need ranch dressing. And she kind of looks at me like I'm crazy, but she just hands me the Hidden Valley Ranch and just kind of goes on her way. And I returned to my mom, and yeah, so that was probably the biggest, most prominent culture shock story that I've had repatriating. The last question is, where is home for you? This one I don't really have an answer for. For me, home is wherever my family is together, which right now would be when we come together for holidays. We go to a house that we have here in Colorado, so I guess it's home. Home is here right now. When I say I'm going home, I say here in Colorado. So I guess Colorado in general is for now my home. Thank you so much for joining me this week. This has been the Third Culture Kid Tag, started by Nana Kennedy-Kwofie. Sorry if I said your name wrong again. But yeah, thank you for joining me this week. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and of course you can follow me on Twitter and Facebook at TCK Rambles. And don't forget to catch my blog that I post to every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at tckramblesblog.wordpress.com. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a happy Tuesday.